Prisoner 371113, you have been tried and found guilty by a jury of your peers. You have been sentenced to 7 years rehabilitation without the possibility of parole.
Let me out.
Welcome to Screen Recaps, and today we are going to recapping the movie Box.Metaphor. In the dystopian year of 2053, Australia grapples with an overburdened prison system due to an 800% rise in crime following the last war. To alleviate the strain, the government introduces the Box Rehabilitation Program, giving prisoners two brutal choices: endure solitary confinement in the box, or volunteer for instant extermination. Survival within the box depends entirely on the mercy of law-abiding citizens, who control the prisoners' access to food and water. Any escape attempts are met with lethal consequences. The film shifts to one such prisoner, a French woman trapped in her box, slowly breaking down from hunger and dehydration. Overwhelmed by her dire situation, she retrieves a hidden razor blade and tragically takes her own life. Next, we are introduced to prisoner 371113, nicknamed Lit, who regains consciousness inside a box, her hands and feet bound. She learns from a screen that she has been sentenced to 7 years of rehabilitation, with her sustenance controlled by those she allegedly betrayed. Lit protests her innocence, but her cries go unheard as she struggles to survive in her harsh, electrically charged confinement. Meanwhile, in the other prison cell, prisoner 13558 desperately searches for an escape route. During her inspection, she accidentally sets off an alarm, causing red lights to flash. A metal rod then violently descends from the ceiling and fatally impales her. The next morning, prisoner Lit is awoken by a young woman who gives her small food pellets and water. Lit tries to explain her innocence, but the woman replies that the citizens will decide her fate. She adds that Lit isn't the first or last prisoner to face this fear. As the days pass, Lit is overcome by hopelessness and attempts to end her life using a rope, but stops just before losing consciousness. She weeps, questioning her fate. Eventually, she distracts herself by gazing outside through a small hole, even finding a rubber ball to occupy her time. After weeks, her box is relocated to a forest. One morning, prisoner Lit is approached by a girl dressed in blue. She asks her what she's doing, to which the prisoner replies that she's serving her 7-year sentence. The girl starts a conversation, asking if she has heard of William Shakespeare. When the prisoner answers in the negative, the girl offers her a book to read. However, the latter refuses to accept it, claiming that she is not permitted to do so during her rehabilitation period. In the midst of their conversation, the girl asks prisoner Lit to come closer, after which she holds her hands and recites some lines from Shakespeare's book, making her feel good. The girl hands over a small bag filled with food pellets and bids farewell, promising to return. Following this brief human interaction, prisoner Lit feels a surge of stimulation, a rare experience after such a long period of isolation. She lies on the floor and touches herself, ignoring the fact that the CCTV camera is recording her actions. Later, while eating, prisoner Lit finds a tiny book within the food packet. Turning away from the camera, she opens it to discover it is a copy of a William Shakespeare work. She uses some saved water to clean herself, preventing infection from her wounds, and discards the used water outside. The CCTV footage of her wasting the drinking water leads to her being transported back to the seaside. Eventually, the same girl returns and asks about her situation, but prisoner Lit instead inquires how they choose whom to feed. The girl explains that she walks among the boxes, talks to the inmates, and distributes food, though bad weather sometimes hinders her efforts. During their conversation, prisoner Lit mentions that the girl reminds her of her deceased younger sister. As time passes, prisoner Lit finds solace in the miniature book, which she reads in secret. A few days later, a drone transports her to a new location, where a citizen taunts her with a juicy apple. Driven by hunger, prisoner Lit begs for mercy, but the man refuses and demands that she satisfy his desires in exchange for the apple. Despite it being illegal, she reluctantly agrees due to her desperate hunger. While the man is taking advantage of her, a patrolling drone intervenes, shooting him dead on the spot. One of the bullets hits prisoner Lit's leg, causing her intense pain. Despite her injury, she manages to reach outside and grab an apple from the deceased citizen. She devours it immediately, only to discover that the fruit is infested with worms, which makes her vomit. That night, a blaring siren wakes her, and a voice announces that she has violated prison rules by trading for food. The punishment for this breach is 7 days of enforced insomnia, with the voice stating it as her first and final warning. The following days are excruciating for Lit. Each time she tries to sleep, a loud siren blares and lights flicker, driving her to bang her head against the wall in a desperate attempt to stay awake. Her severe sleep deprivation leads to hallucinations, where she sees a regal figure that resembles her own reflection. When the punishment ends, Lit finally rests and sleeps for several days. One night, she awakens to the sound of fireworks and sees the celebratory display marking the new year. The citizens are celebrating, and an amnesty is declared for prisoners in isolation. Lit remains in confinement. An elderly woman later visits her, recounting her 15-year ordeal in a similar prison and how it hardened her. She tosses an old, rusty razor blade to Lit before leaving. Soon after, the Shakespeare enthusiast from earlier returns. At first, Lit thinks she's hallucinating, but the girl reassures her of her reality. She offers Lit water and reads another passage from Shakespeare's book. Though brief, the encounter provides Lit with some comfort amidst her ongoing suffering. A few months later, prisoner Lit's belly has grown noticeably. She is pregnant with the child of the man who had earlier offered her the apple. One night, the Shakespeare enthusiast girl visits Lit, expressing her desire to rescue her from captivity. However, the security system detects the intrusion, and an alarm sounds. Sensing the danger, the girl quickly leaves, silencing the siren. The next morning, a citizen approaches Lit, offering her mercy. When she agrees, he shows her another prison box in the distance, which appears to have been set on fire as a form of mercy. Disturbed by this, Lit refuses the offer, choosing to continue her suffering. Months later, Lit goes into labor, and after enduring severe pain, successfully gives birth inside the box. Holding her baby brings her immense joy, momentarily making her forget years of anguish. However, the security system detects the presence of another life and releases anesthetic gas, rendering her unconscious. When she awakens, her child is gone, and she is overwhelmed with grief, screaming for her baby in vain. As time passes, the box fills with water due to a sea wave and rainstorm. Shivering from the cold, Lit struggles as the security system, now malfunctioning, considers her presence a violation. The authorities issue a warning, threatening extermination if the issue isn't resolved. With the countdown ticking, Lit fights against drowning. As the countdown reaches 0, a patrolling drone arrives to transport her for extermination. However, it is struck by lightning, causing the box to fall into the sea. In the final scene, some citizens on the coastline notice the box washed ashore with Lit inside, but choose to ignore it and walk away, leaving the unconscious prisoner abandoned.
I thought I was